Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Art House for first of its kind premiere event. First of its kind on the channel. Wait a second. Wait. Beep, 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 beep. All right, now we're official. First of its kind premiere event at the Collector Arthouse. So it's a little weird format. Feels like I'm kind of like half naked running on the beach. You know, if I'm going to go running on the beach, I like to be all the way naked. So it's a little odd. You know, I like to go live. You know, I like live action, live interaction, but we'll see how the premiere goes. So I got a special delivery here in the package here. And, you know, what I've found, or I was thinking about this, and I was like, you know, usually people fumble around with the box and you got some weird stuff with shipping addresses and whatnot. No one likes to see that, right? So I already opened it. I didn't look at everything inside, but I know what's in there. So I'm going to preface with staging what we're going to talk about. And if you have been following the channel, you might have seen this before. I think I've shown this on several lives, maybe also like in a couple recorded videos and that type of thing. But this was sent to me by my good friend Vincent Buono in France. And Vincent is in the Patreon. A lot of you guys know him. He's got his own French Facebook group and Discord too. You know, the French people are really passionate about sorcery. A lot of great guys I've met through there. And Vincent's one of those. And he was gracious enough to be able to track this gem down and send this to me with a couple of things he did printed at Zazzle, right? So he had printed this card here, Spellcraft, right? So before there was Sorcery and the actual Sorcery Contested Realm card backs, there were these Spellcraft cards. And what these are the very earliest cards ever printed in Sorcery before they even settled on the name Sorcery Contested Realm. So when they stood up the Sorcery Facebook group, this was in, I want to say it might have even been 2021 before the Discord launched. There's a page on Facebook, Sorcery Contested Realm. There's about 2,200 followers on that page. And then recently they launched a Facebook group as well. But on the Facebook page, in the very early days, they hadn't completely settled on the name of the game. And they did a survey and they said, you know, what do you think of Spellcraft, Sorcery Contested Realm? And I think there was a third option. I did a video on this. I forget what the third option was off the bat. So maybe when we watch back the premiere, I'll do the research and chime into my own chat. But Spellcraft was, I guess, the early thinking here, and these cards were printed by Eric at a local print shop in New Zealand. Very much like the initial sample cards or playtest cards, so to speak, that were sent to Red Zone Rogue. Those were also locally printed at the print shop. Those are not actual sample cards from the factory, and neither are these. These were printed at a print shop in New Zealand, and they were used by the team for playtesting, for basic card design. And when you look at these cards, they're very raw because they are not printed at the Chinese factory. Again, they were locally printed, so they're very raw looking. A lot of design changes because this was very early days. They're not reflective of the current alpha design, which is what makes them cool and historic. And that's why I sought out trying to acquire some of these. And the other thing you notice is that the color values are very different too. Like the red, I can tell right away that the red on the Ancient Dragon is a very deep, almost like blood red looking, which doesn't completely come across on camera, but if you saw this in person, you'd immediately be able to recognize this as different from the alpha cards and the sample cards and everything else. And also they're square cut, you know, just for ease of convenience, probably cut by Eric himself with a cutting board or whatever, right? So that stages the context. So what we're going to see here is a lot of Spellcraft cards that I was able to acquire from someone who helped with the game very on in the early development and was gracious enough to share this with me or offer these to me because I am a bit of a historian of the game. I'm really into the history, the sample cards, the early development, understanding how this game came into being, and through my Collector Arthouse website and through the channel here, I like to, you know, put in the work and do the documentation and kind of archive that as a cool piece of history for the OGs who have been into the game since the very beginning. So let's zoom in and get into this package. I'm going to max zoom so we can really see the cards. And this is where people tell me, why do I have these mammoth basketball player hands? It's because I'm on max zoom, guys. I actually have fairly thin hands. So it's pretty funny. The guy said that one time, I think on my last live event. It was in the comments. So look at this beautiful haul of spellcraft cards. That is a significant lot of cards. And again, I knew they were coming. I saw these digitally, but I have not opened these yet. So I got to do some. So, oh, I almost forgot about these guys. Wow. That is super exciting. These little tokens. And I love these artworks by Andrea Modesti, one of my favorite artists in the game. I just love his artistic style. I bought 2 of his original paintings, and it's so cool to see these little guys in spellcraft. And you can see how jacked up the cut is. This actually feels like almost like a paper stock, like almost not even. They might not even be cardboard. So it's really funny. They're so tiny, and as Legend goes, actually, let's take a moment here and compare these to the Alpha Precon, which I happen to have here conveniently. Because as Legend has it, I think as the story goes, Eric asked for those to be quarter size, and there was a miscommunication with the factory, and they said it was either half size or quarter size. Somehow they doubled the cut, and they became twice as small as they were supposed to be. So here you go. This is actually very interesting for scaling. It shows you the original intended token size was supposed to be like this. And then they were overcut by the factory into these tiny little tokens. And it actually worked out for the best, because if you overlay these on the card, they talked about this. I'm going to expose the first one, and it's a tower from Mikhail Nagypal. So let's test it out. I got the Mirror Realm playmat here. The original card design would have had you overlaying the foot soldier on a site like this. And it covers about half the site, right? Let's try with 2 cards. If you had 2 foot soldiers there, the whole card is shot. You can't even see what it is, right? You'd have to do something like this, or, put them off center so you know how many foot soldiers you have on that particular site. So when they cut them further, that's a lot more appropriate, right? I could probably fit, I didn't even take these out of the packaging yet from the Precon kit. You could probably fit 3 of these pretty comfortably, and you could still see the artwork behind it so you know what site it is. So that is pretty fascinating. I'm glad I have a little set of those for scale so we know exactly what that difference is. Take a look again. I'll lay them down on the site. You got the little baby foot soldiers. These are from these are the size you'll have in the Alpha Precon kits, right? The actual Alpha size. So side by side, there you go. Original foot soldier, final version foot soldier. All right, so let's get into the spellcraft cards. That's pretty slick. And maybe you can get that from the print and play anyway. But that's it's a first scene for me, so that was pretty fun and funny. And a lot of people, haven't messed around with print and play or tabletop simulator to know that little nuance. So it's kind of fun and cool to break that news on the channel here. All right, so let's separate the Atlas cards from the spell cards. And I want to test the card stock of these. Yeah, see, these are a little more, a little thicker paper stock. The other ones, the foot soldiers, felt like, these literally feel like, I don't know, a much thinner grade of paper. So these feel like an actual card almost, a lot more substantial. So that's pretty neat. Slide that baby back in there. Be careful of the square corners. So we're going to have sample cards with the square corners like this. And that'll be the unique nature of samples. It's a homage to early Magic the Gathering. So when Magic did their sample cards, they didn't, I think as the story goes, they were not ready to release those for the Alpha MTG print. And I don't know if I have the story exactly right. So they coincided more with the beta release. So they actually most people call them beta artist proofs. But the first ever print for Magic the Gathering are those beta proofs. And those had square corners like you're seeing here. And like you'll see in the sample cards for Sorcery. Now this is interesting. This one is a very thin paper stock too. I could tell by the feel of it right off the bat. So I'm going to set that one aside. We'll take a look what that card is. And these are actual more thicker card stock. Not exactly resembling what they are in Alpha, of course, because it was locally printed. But they feel like actual cards. Like you could technically play with these if you really wanted to. Which would be kind of fun, actually, playing with these and sample cards to have early versions. I mean, obviously they're not tournament legal, but for casual play, just for fun, playing with the old card design is pretty cool and appealing. All right, so let's take a look here at this thin wafer of a card. And wow, look at this. So this is Jeff Easley's Waypoint Portal. So an elite magic of the Dimensional Damnation. If I remember correctly, this might have been changed to an exceptional. I guess I could have had the website up for reference, but we'll kind of just wing it and just appreciate the cards for what they are. And a lot of so what this person was doing and helping with the game was helping with some of the flavor text and the typeline text. So just off the cuff, without reference, I would guess that perhaps this flavor text might have changed from the early design. And we can go and research this stuff afterwards, or as you're following along, you might want to go to collectorarthouse.com and look by artist or in the full card list at the current version for alpha of the cards and see how these changed one by one. So this says for every grand entrance, there must be a timely retreat. All right, so we could check on any changes for that. And since there's a smaller, look, there's quite a few spellbook cards here and much lesser amount of these Atlas cards. So let's go ahead and check with the Atlas cards, see what we get. All right, so the first one, let's do it like this so we don't expose it too soon. Wow. So the Ruins by Dan Seagrave, and it has the dual threshold value on this. Wind howls and fire flares in one exceptional site. Counts as both tower and a desert. Wow. So the colors, I think, are fairly different here. I might do some follow-up and showcase one card at a time and compare to a sample card if I have it in stock, or at least like an alpha card if I have that from my box opening. And then we could really get an appreciation for the card design change. But here you have, and again, like this was early days. They had the copyright symbol next to the artist name. So you have the Desert by Aranja Art, and Aranja just sold all of her artist proof cards already. So those are already bought up and unavailable. She sold those through her website. So there's another one, the Desert. One Fire Threshold. Another Desert. All right, so we got several of these, which makes them prime for a giveaway, potentially. All right. Or through Patreon or some giveaway means. We have the Tower by Mikhail Nagy-Paul. Beautiful. Man, that night sky is just gorgeous. This is a really nice looking card. Those towers look awesome in alpha. Again, another tower. So you're noticing a nuance here, right? They're both called Tower. I think, if I remember correctly, this one is called the Dark Tower. And I don't remember. There's a Lone Tower and a third type of tower. But in the very early days, here's a nuance, right? You can see in the spellcraft version, they were all called Tower generically. And, we just missed that for the deserts, or maybe you guys caught on already. They were all simply called Desert, right? Even though the artwork's different. They changed the name of these to make these distinctly different. Try to get back into focus. There we go. It's trying to pick up one or the other. So we have 2 of the 3 arts, and all called Desert, okay? All right, let's see what else. Hopefully we have some more than the basic lands. Another Desert. So again, several duplicates here. Another Ruins. That's pretty cool. Having another Seagrave. Perhaps the first ever prints, or some of them from the earliest days. Another Desert, but a different one. So that's awesome. I think we have the set of 3 now. Another Tower. So that's the one that's the Lone Tower. So we have a set of the Tower lands. This is pretty slick to play that in. And another Desert. All right. So mostly basic lands, but we have 2 Seagrave Ruins. So that's pretty cool. All right, we'll set those aside and we'll get into this is where the live action is. This will be fun because these spellcraft cards, man, have seen a lot of change. And let's take a look here. Wow, look at even this, the coloring of the print. When you look at Francesca's artwork here, one is very dull and bland looking, and this one is more golden and really pops. So even then, you got to wonder if those were printed at different times or why that happened. But that's pretty fascinating and unique. And actually, as I feel these are the ones that are more on regular paper stock too. So these might have even just been done in Eric's home printer, potentially, is what I would guess. Just like on fairly regular, maybe just regular even paper stock. And then these were probably at a local print shop. So let's take a look at these 2 flimsier ones. We got the Critical Strike by Vincent Pompetti. So that's pretty cool, like the Waypoint Portal. That one felt pretty different. And Teleport, Vincent Pompetti. Beautiful. So, actually, wow, Francesca Berald. All right, so we have a misattribution of artist name. So I saw it, I knew it was Vincent, I know all the artwork and all the artists, and then I look at the card and it says Francesca. So Funny little find there. There was a lot of print file mistakes like that in the early days, and I was catching some of those, and I'd hit up Eric in the Discord and Emberleaf and be like, hey, hopefully you guys catch this, get this cleaned up before print. And this was like a year ago. You know, we thought we were close to print after the Kickstarter, but fortunately there was a lot of time to fix the print files, and those got corrected. I'm trying to think. I want to say, I really got to think if any. There might have been a few that slipped through the cracks in the sample cards. I'd have to go look at my sample card archive at collectorarthouse.com of all the sample cards that I've sold, and through the Sorcery Contested Realm community group, you can go and data mine that and see all the sample cards that I've sold through auction service. Yeah, so some of the artist names changed. Those are things that are getting corrected before you want the final alpha print. Wow, the Peasant Rebellion. So this is an Andrea Modesti artwork that I believe, if I remember off the cuff, this did not make it for the alpha print. So this is really fascinating because this is such an early print of this card. And if it's not an alpha, we really don't know what the card mechanic will be on this. So this could change enormously, you know, like it might be changed. I don't know if it's not introduced in beta, which seems unlikely since that's largely a reprint. It could be introduced in Arthurian Legends or revised, in which case it could change pretty significantly to resemble, to fit better in the meta after we learn and play this game for a while. It's pretty interesting. This guy looks like he's carrying a Reaper there, which is really cool. And man, Andrea does amazing landscape work. Oh, so much detail in this artwork. I really got to see the full art. I think he sent me a picture of the original painting of this, so I got to go dig that up, and because it seems like there's a lot going on under this mechanic box. So that'll be super cool to see. And just the scene is beautiful with the burning buildings in the back. Man, really love Andrea's stuff. All right, next card, Fireball. So I was looking at this when I had Angerworm on the other day, and we were trying to find this to understand the mechanic of the fire avatar. And this is interesting. This is an elite. I'm almost certain that was downgraded to an exceptional, and I don't know if it still has that splash damage. But the reds, again, are like a blood red, much different in these spellcraft cards. All right, next card. Wow. The Raideness Titan, formerly known apparently as the Highland Titan. So that's really fascinating. An elite giant of epic proportions arrive. Man, Tony Sudlow, excuse me. He corrected me when I had him on for a live interview recently. And I want to say they upped the power level to 8 on that card. So wow, that's a great hit. The Rolling Boulder. What do you know about the Rolling Boulder? It's an artwork we have never seen before. So it's not an alpha, certainly. We don't know if it'll ever be used for the game. But this could be a big spoiler for the, probably not beta again, but maybe the revised debut. And there's another artwork from Doug Kovacs, who doesn't have a lot of art in the game. Certainly not a lot in alpha. But this is really awesome with his boulder tumbling down and kind of breaking apart. It looks like a piece of it, either his hat's coming off or he's about to get hit by a fragment of this boulder. But man, that is a cool artwork. I love the action in that, and that boulder just storming down that hill. Let's see what it does. Stay out of the way of this ordinary magic. Choose a starting site and a direction. The boulder rolls 1 step at the start of each turn and deals 5 splash damage on squares it rolls to. Wow, so each turn it's rolling to a new site and doing 5 splash damage. But I can see how that's kind of like a slow play mechanic. It does have 5 power, so perhaps that could stay in play for a little bit. But it's rolling in one. So it says choose a starting site and a direction. The boulder rolls 1 step at the start of each turn and deals 5 splash damage on squares to roll to. So it's a little unclear, like if you could change direction on each turn, or it just keeps rolling in that single direction. Maybe that's a reason it was pulled back and kind of, I don't know, it might be a little clunky to play, but it's super flavorful to have a rolling boulder just clobbering guys in its way. So hopefully that one makes a comeback and they find a way to use that in the game. That's awesome. The Yorkshire Crossbowman. Now, if you guys have your website page up, and I hope you do, I want you to notice the nuance here. You have this tall tower that goes into the name of the card. And the way I know this is Vincent had this card too. And he showed it to me, and he figured this out, and he showed me the difference. So I knew this was coming. In the final version for Alpha, this tower is smaller. So I got to reach out to Andrea Modesti and ask him how this was changed. If he repainted this and repainted the horizon and then did a smaller building. Because when he sold me he didn't sell it to me. He showed me the original painting for this, and I'm pretty certain it was the smaller building. And I could totally see how this was a necessary change that probably bothered Eric, and a little nuance where he just had to have this lowered to have a clean look of the card name. So that's a cool difference. The Quarrel Cabalds. All right. So I think the name changed on that one. The colors are wildly different, so that's super interesting. Alan Pollock. All right, we have the Spire Lich by Vasily Ermolev. Beautiful artwork. So we have a lengthy flavor text here. The Lich's dead eyes pierced the thick shadows like an arrow pierces a tender heart. In that moment, the thief realized the height of his pride and learned the depth of despair. So if I had to guess, and again, I haven't memorized all the flavor text on every card. I don't even remember if this one has flavor text or not. But in most cases, they did not keep and retain a very lengthy flavor text saying like that. So it's highly probable that that changed in the final version, and we'll do the compare. The Pudge Butcher. Man, what an epic card to have, like one of the first ever prints of the Pudge Butcher. The Butcher can't move normally. It casts its hook in a straight line and reels its prey in. This is considered an attack. A greedy monster of exceptional sloth. Such an iconic card. And it's kind of interesting. It looks like it was almost double printed. Let me take this out of the sleeve for a moment. No, that's just a cut issue. So these must have been like on a print sheet side by side, you know, and it wasn't cleanly printed enough. So you start seeing the piece of the next card it was printed next to. And likewise at the top. So we could probably map that or look at other artwork and probably figure out what was lying alongside of that as that was printed and then hastily cut for gameplay, play testing. All right, the Grey Wolves, a very popular one by Melissa Benson. The wolves gain +1 power for each nearby wolves. And I think in the final version, you know, it says something to the effect where there's no limit on the number of copies you could have in your deck. So a big design change on this one. So it's really interesting and fascinating to see an early version like that. Another Pudge Butcher. Same mechanic, same design. So awesome. We have a duplicate of that one. Giveaway potential. The Ornithopter. Wow. So I think this was called Hand Glider or something like that. And I was talking to Elvira about this. And she told me the list of names of cards that she was commissioned to do. And in that list, it said Ornithopter. And I was like, what is that? You know, and I probably could have figured it out, done some research on what the hell that term means. But she said it's a hand glider, you know, and the name just changed. So, wow, this is awesome that the name, I have one with the different name printed on there. Again, like these cards were not available in the print and play, I don't think, in these early form like this. Not this early. So I highly doubt in the print and play they had this card with the Ornithopter title. So that's what makes these fairly special and unique, you know, in a piece of history that was never otherwise documented. You know, it's the first seen on the channel. So that's really awesome to be able to break this. I really appreciate this opportunity. All right, Alvera Palakowska, Dispel. So the quick magic effect, we know that was eliminated from the alpha design. And again, I am sure that this flavor text was revised, so let's see what it says. Again, the person that had these cards was helping with the flavor text and this type of thing, so he probably loved this flavor text, and it was like maybe, you know, it's unfortunate that they changed it into something simpler, but it says, the best laid schemes of mice and men oft go awry and leave us nothing but grief and pain for promised joy. Robert Burns. Very cool. Alvera. So we're getting a nice sampling of different artists. Wow, the Weary, I almost said the Wayfaring Pilgrim, right? Because that's the current name of the card. But this is the Weary Pilgrim. So again, a change. An Elite Mortal. So I think that was downgraded. It's no longer an Elite. When your Pilgrim visits a corner square, draw 2 spellbook cards. This can be done only once for each of the 4 corners. So very powerful card draw effect. But it's when you visit a corner square. So it's also fairly limiting in its use case, right? Oh, so another flimsy card. You see how easy that bent? This is just on regular paper. Wow, and that's the Haste by Drew Tucker. All right. Haste. Look at that. Just folds right in half. That's crazy. It's just regular paper. All right, so we got a few of those. Oh, look at this one, guys. Shackle Cerberus. Alan Pollock. An epic card. I believe this landed as a unique in the final set, but it says an elite demon dog on short leash. And then you see how large the text is. That was another revision you see on these very early playtest cards. The playtext is oversized. and that was really slimmed down for the final print to look more aesthetically balanced, I'm sure is why Eric made that choice. The Cerberus cannot move further than to sites adjacent to where it was summoned. Wow. The blood red again. Common Sense, a popular one by Drew, with some sloppy cutting once again. Very nice. Backstab. My guy Vincent Pompetti with the large text. All right, that's awesome. Common Sense again. All right, so another duplicate. We'll move on. I got quite a bit to get through here. Rattlesnakes. Mikhail Nagypal. Beautiful artwork. This looks so good in the final alpha version. The art on it. Don't tread on me. I don't recall if that was retained. That might be another change. It says ordinary snakes, slithers and rattles here. Man, the final version of this and the original artwork must look incredible. This is a great, very detailed, colorful artwork. The Belmont Longbowman. Another beautiful artwork by Andrea. So a lot of flavor text on these guys. So a lot of this flavor text, again, was revised and or completely eliminated. Clumsy and slow, the wretched crossbow, a cousin thus crafted to odious foe. Yeah, so as we're going here, this is going to be a premiere as you're watching it. So, yeah, chime in if you like, on which ones you like. Another crossbow. So you have the small building. And I think I might have missed the flavor text the last time. Let's see. Let's just double check that was the same flavor text and make sure this wasn't changed or printed twice. Here it was. Yep. All right, so everything's the same. It's the same card, same print. And it's an exceptional, so there's probably 3 in this particular playtest deck as it was being used. And it says a crude hewn stick with twanging string. The longbow breaks for the rising king. Man, awesome. I love that. Love that saying. That's great. Here we go. Sleeping Giant. Another secret art reveal. Maybe. So here's my theory, guys. There's a lot of artwork that was commissioned by multiple artists. And here's an example. This one I confirmed was done by Elvira Palakowska, so that is accurate. And there's another Sleeping Giantess that's in the alpha version done by Liz Danforth. So this, once upon a time was an elite. An elite mythic rests his eyes here. The giant sleeps until attacked. It must immediately attack the creature that woke it up. So really cool, interesting artwork by Elvira Palakowska. She'll be excited to see that one in printed form. But it's not an alpha, so we'll see. Maybe we'll get an alt art for it can't be the giantess. So here's an interesting one where it's a male figure, right? So if they change it for revised, maybe this card gets retired in alpha. You might want to keep an eye out for that with the giantess. Maybe that will be limited to only alpha and beta potentially. If they don't reprint it, if there is new art introduced and revised. Fascinating to speculate. Let me know in the comments if you think that's possible or if I'm getting carried away. All right, Brian Smith, the Scored Spider. You cannot mistake a Brian Smith artwork. He recently showed this on Instagram, and he did this ultra zoom. The camera's not going to get it that close, but it was so zoomed in that you really only saw the spider here and part of the mouth. So it almost looked like it was a different artwork at first. And I was like, well, man, I don't know if you're leaking something or revealing it, but then I took a closer look, and I was like, all right, it's the Scored Spider, which I think has a different name now. But that artwork did make it into alpha. Wow, so that's a gnarly artwork by Mr. Brian Smith. Oh, man, the Panorama Manticore. Beautiful. Every Melissa Benson artwork is just a joy. That just looks awesome. Even in this print, this crude local store printing, it just looks so colorful and nice. Man, I'm going to have to get these. Maybe I'll get these signed as I go to shows. Get these signed from the artists. Here we go. So I knew again right away this was a flimsy local paper cut, probably home printed on this one. And, you can't even hold it up without it bending in half. This is The Eastern Dragon by Mr. Jeff Easley. Amazing artwork. All his work is super detailed and impressive. Scavenging Fiend by Dan Seagrave. Now, some interesting thing about the artwork on a Scavenging Fiend, I'm pretty certain if you go to Sorcery, if you go to the Collector Arthouse website and go to the full art page, there were some of these artworks where the originals were inverted, right? So in the original painting, if I remember correctly, the Fiend might have been going from right to left, but then for the print of the card, it was going from left to right. So there's some nuances like that. I think the Mirror Realm was inverted like that. That's the playmat that I'm rocking here. And several other artworks, which I've talked about in, various probably YouTube videos on the Collector Arthouse website, articles I've written, comments I've made in Discords. They're all over the place. I try to document this stuff formally where I can. Ooh, so the Fire Blast from Lindsay Crumet. And again, we have a flavor text here to admire. On a cold winter morning, in the time before the light, flames of death assert an eternal reign. So that's what these cards are about. It's about the text, the typeline text, and the flavor text predominantly. That's what has seen significant change. So it's great to see that evolution. We'll have to do the compare and contrast later. Another Gray Wolves. Very nice. All right, we have Common Sense. So we've seen probably 3 of those at least by now. So maybe there's 4 on these ordinaries. Here's Rattlesnakes, again, by Mikhail. Another Rolling Boulder. Wow. I didn't realize there were 2 in this set. That is exciting. So again, a brand new artwork we've never seen before. Really fun, cool, flavorful mechanic. We don't know if it'll survive or if we'll ever see that card in Sorcery. So maybe it's unique to Spellcraft, the game before the game. Squirming Mass, Brian Smith. The evil worms. Elite insects surround your feet. The mass's power is the same as the number of dead creatures in all Discord piles. Wow. It occupies all Earth sites. So it has this X power level. And I'm not sure. We'll have to double check. I think that changed significantly. But this would get pretty wild. The mass's power is the same as the number of dead creatures in all Discord piles. And it occupies all Earth sites. That sounds insanely overpowered, unless I'm missing something here. I mean, it has a fairly large-ish casting cost, but it would come in with like an insane power if you drew this late game. Obviously, like early game, it wouldn't be so powerful, especially with the casting cost. You have to wait to play it anyway, but that seems like it could be super OP and just kind of absorb the whole realm and be on every Earth site. There's really some nice strategic effect to that. That's a card you probably want to experiment with and play in a normal deck. This is kind of the fun you could have. If you had copies of this card, maybe I'll post these, I'll scan them in, and I'll post them on my website, and then people can make custom cards and play around with these mechanics. It'd probably make for some awesome like home alternate gameplay. How to strategize and lay out your Earth decks and strategically surround them all over the realm, and then surprise your buddy with this massively powerful card where you just slam them with huge power level, and these worms are just flooding the realm. All right, battering ram, Alvera Palakowska again. Again, I don't recall if this was in the final. I'd have to double check. An exceptional relic for a protected advance. Creatures on a square are protected from ranged attacks. Can only move and attack straight ahead. Boom. The battering ram. Full bore ahead. Just rams you. Awesome. Oh! Look at this beautiful artwork. Guys, this card does not even have an artist name printed on it. But you know who it is just by looking at it, right? Brian Smith. Brian Smith. This is an amazing artwork. I have it at the Collector Arthouse. So if you look at the full art page at the collectorarthouse.com website, there are several artworks that we have not seen at all for any set. But I data mined the whole internet. I scrubbed the internet, all of social media. I curated all of these artworks in one-stop shop. CollectorArthouse.com is the only place on the internet that you can find it. And this is an artwork that resides there. And Brian still has a lot of his paintings. This one is incredible. I think I featured it on the Facebook group sometime last year, so there's been some spoilers there. Sorcery Contested Realm community group on Facebook. There's a lot of documentation of the history. If you just go through the picture library and then start navigating the posts, really fascinating. So this says a legendary magic of massive destruction. So a legendary rarity level. Amazing. Super fascinating. Not unique, not exceptional, not elite, and not ordinary, but legendary. Legendary magic. So a fascinating revelation, a big-time change. Play at the intersection of 4 squares. At the beginning of your turn, Inferno deals 7 damage to everything on those sites. Wow. Across 4 squares. That's amazing. Common Sense, another one. We have several of those. Giveaways. If you want a Spellcraft card, I'm going to hook up the Patreon members, I'm sure, at some point. Fire Blast. I like doing giveaways to give back to those who are very generous to support. Really appreciate that. Collector Arthouse Patreon. Ooh, Puppet Master. Beautiful one by Liz Danforth. And I think, ages ago when I first reached out to Liz, we were talking on the Discord, and she graciously invited me into her Discord group. And, we talked a lot through DMs, on and off. And I pretty sure she told me the story of this one early on. She was the first artist that I was going to interview, but we were both just so busy. She has a super busy schedule. And we just never got around to doing it. And I interviewed, I think, like 14 artists, if you go to collectorarthouse.com, written Q&A interviews. So they're very interesting, hearing about the artist background. Hope to get to Liz someday. I'm going to see her at the IX Art Show, so maybe I can get her to sign this and tell her the story of Spellcraft, ask her if she heard that title before the game. I think most artists had not heard of that. They were calling it Project Atlas in the early days. And yeah, Spellcraft is kind of... Excuse me. Hey, dying. I think Spellcraft... I'm always coughing, guys. I think it was something new that I broke on the channel. The Doomsday Prophet, Doug Kovacs. We talked about him earlier. Artist for the Rolling Boulder. So super cool from Doug. It says, a unique mortal prognosticating the end. And the quote says, the stars will fall from the sky and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. Mark 25. Man, so orange. I got to look at the final version. I forget if this one made alpha or not, but it's incredible artwork. Maybe one of the best he did. He's a great artist. He's done some really cool, interesting stuff. And just, I'm laughing because like the expression on this guy's face so beautifully captures just a wild man. Doomsday Prophet preaching the end of the world. Incredible. You gotta love it. Gotta love Sorcery. Dan Seagrave, Hammer Pendant. So we know that the name of this one has changed significantly. It's still a relic. In early days, it says carrier creature gains 1 power. If the carrier creature dies, return the pendant to owner's hand. 0 to play. Interesting. Gotta love Seagrave. I almost bought that one. I kind of regret not pulling the trigger because it looks beautiful. Beautiful card. I'm so happy to have an Elvira Shakarova. Really great artist in Sorcery. This is a beautiful artwork. The Rimland Nomads. Protected from fire, the Nomads must move on your turn, if able. Wow. Ordinary mortals on a perpetual journey. Beautiful. Gorgeous artwork. Man, Elvira is so great. All right. Another Squirmic Mass. We saw that earlier. All right. Ooh, Boss Troll. Not by Vincent Pompetti. So another misattribution. That one's done by Vasily Ermolev. And you could just tell, you look at it, that's totally Vasily, right? They have their very unique art styles. Every artist has a very unique style that they bring to the table, which is awesome. All right, just a few more. We have the Belmont Longbowmen. Saw a few of those. Another Peasant Rebellion. Again, beautiful artwork. Really love that one. All right, guys. 3 more cards. Another Rolling Boulder. 3 of those. Man, and I love that card. I really hope we see that in revised. It just seems like an awesome artwork that has a lot of potential for a gameplay design. Grey Wolves. And very last but not least, hopefully, see what we have here. Oh, what a one to end with. Another brand new, first ever seen artwork reveal, the Firelands Ifrit. So if you remember, guys, on the back, so in Alpha, on the Atlas cards, we no longer have the names of the regions. But in the very early days, you had Highland, Midland, Unland. That's right, because we had the Lord of Unland. And over here, you have the Firelands. Oh, and I'm off screen and obscured. All right, so let's do it again. Highland, Midland, Unland, Firelands. So in the Firelands, there were a few artworks whose names changed in the game, right? So I just wanted you to hold that thought for a moment because I want to show you the Fireland Ifrit. Hey-o, we're on borrowed time. What's up, bud? Having a snack? All right, let's talk about the Firelands Ifrit before we call it a night. An elite but uncontrollable mythic emerge. Airborne movement +1. The Efreet must move towards enemies and attack them if able. We got some animal cracker reserves right here. Look at his card, bud. What do you think of this card? Is it good?
Yeah.
Cool artwork? Hey, you looking at the iPad or you looking at the artwork?
I'm looking at that.
You looking at that or this?
I'm looking at those two.
Oh, those two? Good move. Look at that amazing Jeff Easley artwork. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so spoiler alert. I'm sorry, guys. It is what it is. Maybe you saw it prematurely. Maybe we'll see it in revised. Beautiful cards. Look at this massive haul of gorgeous spellcraft cards. Absolutely beautiful. The Francesca Berald spellcraft cards.
Yeah.
The artwork on the back. We got our little soldiers. Welcome back. We got several lands, mostly basic, couple runes, and we got the home printer prints. Flimsy, flimsy, flimsy. Right? So let's see if we can get those signed by some of the artists, maybe as I see them on shows. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It was super fun. Hope you like this new piece of history. Some first new artwork we've seen for a long time. It's going to be a long wait until we see new artwork in Arthurian Legends. But it was really a lot of fun. We'll see how this premiere goes when we join in. We talk about it. Hopefully everybody had a good time. And maybe we'll do it again. But I like to go live. I like to live interact with the crowd. So I don't know. Thought I'd give it a shot once. Thank you guys. Until next time, please like, subscribe, share the video, leave a comment, help expand the reach of the channel. And we'll continue to document the history of sorcery. And if you care to, consider joining the Patreon. Really appreciate that. There's a lot of benefits and things. You could reach out to me if you want to hear more about that. But thank you to all the patrons who already support me. And thanks to all the great community members I met all over the world. It's been super awesome. Say bye, Jack.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Take care. See ya.